Yo, what's going on YouTube, and welcome back to Goal Line Hockey. It's your boy Kevin Forte, and today we have to take a look at the Pittsburgh Penguins because there is so much going on in Pittsburgh right now between trade rumors for Chikrin, getting a forward, a third line center. There is so much that the Pittsburgh Penguins could do. And Ron Hextall hasn't done anything yet. So they still have a couple of prospects available, a boatload of draft picks if they decide to move those. There's a lot they can do. Now, the problem with these trades is it's one of those things where, similar to what the Oilers have done and the Maple Leafs have done recently, if contracts come in, contracts have to go out. And some of the deals, it's a little bit interchangeable, but for the most part, considering they have $400,000 of cap space, it's going to have to be guys coming in and then moving out the other way. So we're going to take a look at that today. So we're going to start off with some of the targets that have been linked to the Pittsburgh Penguins here over the last couple of weeks, months. The first one I'm going to just put to bed right now. Not happening. Tom Wilson. Tom Wilson's name is floated around there. That he might be available in Washington. It's not happening. As much as I know Capitals fans would love, Penguins fans would love to get Tom Wilson, it's not going to happen. One of the most hated players in Pittsburgh going to the Penguins, it's not going to happen. But that's kind of the theme of player that I expect the Penguins to get. And this is a quote from Berkey back in the day. He says, we want guys that are big and have some truculence. And that's exactly what the Penguins are going to look for at this deadline. Stay tuned. I have some mock trades for what I think they will do here over the next couple of days. So that's kind of staying with that theme of a forward with some truculence. Boone Jenner, the captain of the Columbus Blue Jackets. Now, the problem for that is there's two things. One, the salary, and two is the price. Boone Jenner will not be cheap to pry out of the Columbus Blue Jackets organization. He's a very good player on that team. He's a core player there in Columbus. He's a perfect fit for the Penguins, though, and that's something that if the Penguins, again, some of these ideas that I have fall through, that's definitely a guy you should be taking a look at. Tyler Bertuzzi. His name was off the board. It was on the board. Off the board again. Now it's back on the board because of the recent price for Tanner Jeannot. Tyler Bertuzzi is going to cost you a first and plus more. So Bertuzzi's available from the Red Wings. Steve Yzerman, we know, is very strategic and tactical with his moves. So the Penguins have to be careful with this one. Tyler Bertuzzi is available, though, if the Penguins are really looking to get that type of player. Talk about truculence. Problem is, though, he's only got his 7th or 8th goal of the season just last week. So he's been struggling in terms of the goal department. So if you're giving up a first and more assets for a guy that hasn't even put up 10 goals, there is some level of concern there. And the fact he'll be a UFA this summer, what is he going to want in a new contract if he does end up staying with the Penguins? Those are some of the questions that need to be answered there. Max Domi, a similar situation, but it actually might help the price. Max Domi is a member of the Blackhawks. He really likes it in Chicago and could be one of the guys that if he gets moved, it's either going to be one of two philosophies for the Hawks. Listen, we want to keep him long term, so unless you're going to give us a really good package, we're not trading him. Or the caveat of, well, we know we're going to get you in the summer because you want to come back to us, so we'll take a second-round pick for you, and we know we'll get you again this summer. It's one of those two philosophies. We're going to find out if/when he gets traded, but Max Domi is probably toward the top of the Penguins' radar in terms of a trade partner. Domi's a good player in that regard, and I think if you're looking at maybe the cheaper deal, the less complicated deal, Domi makes sense. They have to move $3 million. They could do that with trading out one guy. It could be Dumoulin. It could be McGinn. It could be Teddy Bluger. They could find a way to make that work, but we're going with more of the fun options. And the reason I say that is because apparently the Penguins have been linked over the last 48 hours, really getting the ball rolling on two specific teams. And those two specific teams are very intriguing for many different reasons, and we're going to get to that. So this is from Josh Yo. He says the Pens have been seriously engaged with the Vancouver Canucks and the Arizona Coyotes in the past 24 hours. Major moves possible. Remember that part. Many in Pittsburgh organization are pushing for a move. Mike Sullivan. the head coach of the Pittsburgh Penguins, Mike Sullivan, has been very vocal in that sense that he wants to see them make some moves, specifically Jakob Chychrun. But I don't think that's it. I think there's a lot that could be on the table other than Chychrun for the Coyotes, and we're going to get to that now. So the two teams in question, the Coyotes and the Canucks. So who are they interested in both of these teams? Well, in Arizona, it's fairly simple. There's a couple of guys to different degrees. You could probably put the first two, one of those guys, and then the second two kind of in their own category as well. So they're either going to get 1, 2, which I'll show you here, or 3 and 4, right? So it's going to be a mixture of those two assets more than likely, right? So it's Chychrun and Schmaltz. Those are my two guys. Again, I prioritize Chychrun because looking at the defenseman market, there isn't much left, right? It's kind of drying up very quickly, right? Jake McCabe, a guy that was rumored to Pittsburgh, he's off the board. He's in Toronto. Luke Schenn, I think most Penguin fans are happy he's off the board, but he's no longer there. So he's no longer an option for them. Who else is really out there? Gavrikov. Gavrikov goes to LA. So now you're even looking at guys like Ekholm, right? With multi-year deals left going to Edmonton. So you're not going to trade for Provorov. That wasn't maybe an option, but again, he's in Philadelphia. We don't see that happen very often. I don't think we'll see it at this year's deadline. So really, it leaves you with Jakob Chychrun. That's going to add any substance to this lineup. So that's a big one. I would put a heavy prioritization on Jakob Chychrun. Like I said, Nick Schmaltz is a really good piece. He could be a really good upgrade to their third line and even a winger on the second line with Malkin and Rust. But those are some things to look at. And then the other two guys I'm looking at, they're pending UFAs, but they definitely, speaking of adding truculence, Nick Ritchie and Nick Bjugstad are very good options in that regard. Ritchie seems like a really good fit in Pittsburgh, trying to add some, just being a pain in the ass in the playoffs. Nick Ritchie definitely fits that bill for the Pittsburgh Penguins. So now we move to the Canucks. 3 guys on the Canucks that I really look at here. Brock Besser, JT Miller, and Niels Höglander. Höglander's available, kind of a weird one because he's a younger player, and you would think that's what the Canucks are looking for. Just doesn't sound like him and this new group with Rick Tocchet and Rutherford and Alvin. It just doesn't seem like there's much connection there. So Höglander could be available. He's a cheaper guy. He's played in the NHL. This is his second NHL season, so he's got some seasoning under him, and that could be a cheap deal for the Penguins to bring in that can jump right into the lineup, add some depth scoring. I think that's a perfect fit for them. And I think one of Brock Besser or JT Miller. We'll get to that in a second. So let's go over my mock trades because there's a lot you could do here. It's going to be expensive for the Penguins, no doubt about it, but I think it'll be worth it. My first trade is the Pittsburgh Penguins acquiring Jakob Chychrun and 50% of the remaining salary of Nick Ritchie. In exchange, the Arizona Coyotes acquire a 2023 and a 2024 first-round pick from the Penguins. That's right, both first-round picks for the next 2 years. Ty Smith, I know, hold on, Brian Dumoulin, and Brock McGinn. And the reason for Dumoulin and McGinn is the salary. The salary of Chychrun, you're going to have to move out a lot of money here. And that's what I think you're looking at. So here's the philosophy. Now, the problem is you're not going to find many better offers than that if you're the Coyotes, right? 2 first-round picks, a probable top 4 left-shot defenseman in Ty Smith, Brian Dumoulin, who's a left-shot defenseman that can come in right now, and Brock McGinn, who can probably fill out your top 6 in terms of your forward group for the remainder of this season, or at the very least, be in your lineup. And kind of my philosophy for this, if you're the Penguins, right, you're bringing in Chychrun, so you don't really need, that's an upgrade over Dumoulin. Plus, you have Owen Pickering. And if Owen Pickering comes in the next 3 or 4 years, well, now you don't need Ty Smith as much. You already have Pierre-Olivier Joseph. You already have Marcus Pettersson. And now you bring in Chychrun. That's your top 3 right there for this season. And then you still have room for Pickering to grow. So when I look at this deal, yeah, you don't want to give up all those first-round picks and Ty Smith, but that is going to be the price. And if you're the Coyotes and you're Bill Armstrong, you're not going to find many better offers than that. And the thing is, too, yeah, they take on some salary. They take on McGinn for a couple years. They take on Dumoulin. But those guys can be in the lineup. They're serviceable in the lineup. So it's not that bad, right? It's actually kind of a benefit for the Coyotes just to get their roster and their salary cap to the floor. So I think this is, again, it's a good layup for a trade, but let me know what you guys think. Again, these are all mock trades, but this is really something that is plausible if Ron Hextall is willing to go all in this year. Now, the second trade isn't as expensive, but it is still going to come at a price. The Pittsburgh Penguins acquire Brock Besser and Niels Höglander from the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for a 2024 second-round pick, Samuel Poulin, and Jeff Petrie. So again, a lot of salary has to get moved here, and that's why Jeff Petrie has to be on the move. The Vancouver Canucks are giving up a top six winger in Brock Besser, Niels Höglander, who's a middle six winger, maybe a second line guy, probably a third liner in Pittsburgh. I think this allows them to even maybe move Rust. I know they like having Rust and Malkin together, but if you have, or Zucker goes to the third line, I don't know if he could play center, but there's a lot you can manipulate. Besser can jump on the line with Malkin. I think that's a good starting point there. Höglander can play on your third line, maybe jump to your second line if need be. And you're trading out Samuel Poulin, who I don't think he's played in the NHL this year for the Penguins. He's played in Wilkes-Barre. He's kind of a prospect that's kind of hitting that level of bust. So maybe he gets one more shot with Vancouver. You're giving up that second round pick, so you don't have any more first round picks after the Coyotes trade, so you give up your next best draft pick asset. That's a second round pick. And Jeff Petrie, who can jump into the Canucks lineup as a defenseman. And again, it's more salary. It's over $6 million of salary saved for the Penguins in that deal. So it might cost you another draft pick, like a third or a fourth round pick. But nonetheless, I think this is a pretty good base for that kind of trade. And if the Penguins are serious about going for it this year, yeah, it's expensive, but when you look at who's going out, it's 2 first-round picks, this year's and next, a second-round pick either this year or next year, so you still keep one of those picks, one that you don't trade, Ty Smith, Samuel Poulin, Brian Dumoulin, Jeff Petrie, and Brock McGinn, right? So that's a lot of guys going out, but you're getting 4 additions to your lineup. You're getting Nick Ritchie, Niels Höglander, Brock Besser, and Jacob Chychrun. And of all those guys, the only guy that would be a UFA that isn't going to be back next year is Nick Ritchie. And honestly, they could probably sign him back for a cheaper deal than he is already on. So when I look at it in that sense, if you're the Penguins here, yeah, you're giving up futures, right? You're giving up Ty Smith. You're giving up multiple first-round picks, a second-round pick, Poulin. You're giving up a lot. But you could consider some of these contracts even dead weight, right? McGinn, Petrie, Dumoulin, getting paid more than they're really worth. You're sending those contracts out, and yeah, you're giving up a lot, but you're getting a lot, and you're getting not only just guys that are rentals, but good, nutritious, long-term contract guys. Chychrun's got 3 years left on his deal. He's not even 25 yet. They'll have him till he's 27, 28, and hopefully renegotiate. Brock Besser, same thing. I think he's got a 5-year deal with the Canucks right now, so they've got a lot of security with him. Höglander, they can do whatever they want with him. If he doesn't work out next year with the Penguins, they could always keep him as an RFA and try and negotiate a deal then. And Nick Ritchie, which, love him or hate him, you could decide that this summer, right? So I think for the Penguins, some criticism may be toward giving up the multiple first-round picks, a second-round pick, and Ty Smith. But all things considered, you still keep Owen Pickering, you still keep Philip Hallander. It doesn't look that bad anymore, right? Does it? I think it's a benefit for the Penguins right now. And we always talk about how you don't want to mortgage the future for this season. But in reality, if you're acquiring Chychrun and Besser and Höglander and Ritchie, like I'm mentioning, those guys are there's more meat to the bone than just this playoff run. So even if the Penguins miss the playoffs this year, you probably have some kind of protection on that first round pick. Maybe one of those picks becomes a 2025 first, which you start to run into some dangerous categories there. But to be honest, considering the Penguins' success under the Crosby-Malkin era, they never missed the playoffs. So I still find it very hard to believe if they make all these additions that they still miss the playoffs. Or even over the next 3 years. They don't make the playoffs in one, right? They should make the playoffs one of the next 3 years. And that's what the Penguins have to be betting on if they make these multiple first round pick trade asset type deals. Like I said, there aren't many defensemen that will upgrade their defense left on the market. Chychrun's that guy. Yeah, it comes at a premium. You kind of hit the button on the trade, you make the deal, and you just deal with it. And yeah, it's not the best thing in the world, but it is what it is. And if you're the Penguins, this is all in time, right? You re-signed Letang. You re-signed Malkin. You have to send the message that the cup window is still open. And they have a chance to do something here. They've won they've won their last 2 games. They've beaten the teams they're supposed to beat in the Central Division. They beat Nashville. They beat St. Louis. What else can they do moving into the deadline? We're going to have to wait and see. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of the Pittsburgh Penguins moving here into the trade deadline? Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you again next time.